Okay, now that we've successfully run your first Android application, it's time for us to explore the environment more fully. It's time for us to get to work and see what else we can customize in our Android application. If you were looking at my screen, you'll see that I'm looking at text messages sent to this emulator. Before we go to any programming, I'd like to show you guys the DDMS screen. We've seen it before when I showed you guys how to see if your emulator was running properly. So I have my emulators up and I can see their processes running in DDMS mode. If you don't see this on your machine, you can click on Window in Eclipse, click on Open Perspective. If you don't see DDMS on the list, click on Other, and you should see DDMS there. Once you select that, you'll get the same screen that I have. So things that we can see here. One, we have emulators running. So on my computer, I have two emulators running. One I can use for debugging, and one that's still booting up. Okay, to confirm that, we'll look at what I actually have. So I have one running already and can be used for debugging. That's Z over here. And I have another emulator that's still trying to boot up, named Test40. That's one thing you have to watch out for your Android emulators. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they take forever to boot up, as shown by this one over here. So it's very important for you to try out a couple of them. Just remember, if you have too many emulators open, it might cause your computer to have low memory. So I have emulators running. What else can I do here? In case I have applications that actually check for text messages or calls, I can simulate that in DDMS view. If you look at my screen right now, I've clicked on the tab called Emulator Control. This is where I can send fake calls or sample text messages to my chosen emulator. So I'll select my currently running emulator, which is Z, also known as emulator 5556. Put in any number in the incoming numbers section, and I'll put a test message. You could put whatever text you want, and then I'll click on send. So nothing seems to be happening. I'll go back to my emulator, and you'll notice that test message has now appeared in my messages list. If this is the first time you're using Android, again, as I said, this is a real Android phone, you'll notice that the message indicator or new message indicator has appeared on your emulator screen. Now, long-time Android users would know to pull down there and they'll see a synopsis of the message that they received. By clicking on that, you get sent to your text messages app, which we are seeing right now. So that's how you can test if your application can react to text messages. Your emulator can get them from the DDMS view. The other thing you can emulate is a call. So I've switched it from SMS to voice. I have an incoming number, and then I'll click on call. Okay, so you'll see now that my phone or my emulator has actually moved to call mode. You can pretend that you're answering the call by dragging the green icon to answer. And it will actually place your emulator into call mode. You can decide not to answer and hang up, or you can end the currently active call. And for all intents and purposes, this acted like a real phone that is being called. You'll get a call log similar to a real call, and you'll see when that call was made. So the DDMS is there inside Eclipse to help you interact with your emulator. Now, if we go back to our normal Java view, that gets us back to our project, and this is where we can start customizing your application. When you're working with the screen or the layout as it is in Android, it works pretty much like any other visual design tool. You'll notice Hello World can be selected, and you can modify certain characteristics of this particular on-screen widget. This is known as a label, and we can quickly change what it says. Okay, by double-clicking on it, or if you don't like doing that, from here, from your graphical layout, you'll notice that there are two tabs at the bottom. So when we're looking at a screen, either because it was open already, like what we have right now, or I'll close it. So we have our code left. You can double-click on the XML file, which will load it inside Eclipse, and we'll get our layout again. So take note, there are two tabs, one for the graphical layout and one for the XML. If you remember what I mentioned earlier, all screen layouts are actually XML files. If we go to mainscreen.xml, we'll see something similar to code. So this is our XML file. And then, for those who like looking deeply into details, you'll notice that there's actually no item that directly correlates to the Hello World text that we see. So again, looking at Java, we'll see something like this. @string hello world. This is the portion where we can actually change what it says in that box. We'll look at @string in more detail at some future point in time. What you do right now is delete that and put in your own message. Okay. So I've changed the text. We look again. We're changing a text view control, and we're manipulating its text property. When I save that, okay, so if you look at your file name right now, you'll see that there's an asterisk beside the name. That indicates that whatever you've done has not been saved yet. And those changes will not reflect in your application until you hit save. So once more, I've looked at the text view control, and I've changed its text to a different message. The sharp people out there, they'll notice this particular symbol. Don't worry, this won't cause your program to stop. What it is a warning. Okay, so the Eclipse Integrated Development Environment is telling us that something has been done that might potentially cause your program to crash. It will underline it in yellow. So you have those yellow squiggly marks here. What it's basically telling me is, and if I don't know what it wants to say, you mouse over the symbol, and you'll see its recommendation. Hard-coded string, hello mommy, I can code Android apps, should use @string resource. Okay. Google does not recommend hard coding your strings. If it's being used inside your layouts, they want it flexible so that in case you support foreign languages, you can easily change the phrases and words that you use. We'll look more into that when we go to localization. At this point in time, just take note of that. When you get a warning, it does not mean your program won't run. It might cause a potential problem, okay, but you can still try working with your code. Since we're still trying to get used to Android development, change your text to whatever fits your fancy. So I've changed this. I'll save it. Once I've saved it, I'll go back to main.java. I won't change anything there. And then I'll run my application again.